Hello and welcome to Abide with me. I pray that these readings and verses find you well and add a little bit of light to your day. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let us know, have you come across any of these verses before? Which is your favorite? And do you have any extra verse that could come in handy for a brother or sister in need? Please let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you and enjoy. The Israelites sinned against the Lord again, and he let the Philistines rule them for 40 years. At that time, there was a man named Manoah from the town of Zorah. He was a member of the tribe of Dan. His wife had never been able to have children. The Lord's angel appeared to her and said, "You have never been able to have children, but you will soon be pregnant and have a son. Take care not to drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden fruit. And after your son is born, you must never cut his hair, because from the day of his birth, he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite. He will begin the work of rescuing Israel from the Philistines." Then the woman went and said to her husband, "A man of God has come to me, and he looked as frightening as the angel of God. I did not ask him where he came, and he didn't tell me his name, but he did tell me that I will become pregnant and have a son. He told me not to drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food, because the boy is to be dedicated to God as a Nazirite as long as he lives." Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, "Please, Lord, let the man of God that you have sent to come back to us, and tell us what we must do with the boy when he is born." God did what Manoah said, and his angel came back to the woman while she was sitting in the fields. Her husband Manoah was not with her, so she ran at once and said to him, "Look, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me again." Manoah got up and followed his wife. He went to the man and asked, "Are you the man who was talking to my wife?" "Yes," he answered. Then Manoah asked, "When your words come true, what must the boy do? What kind of life must he lead?" The Lord's angel answered, "Your wife must be sure to do everything that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine. She must not drink any wine or beer or eat any forbidden food. She must do everything that I have told her." Manoah did not know that it was the Lord's angel, so he said to him, "Please do not go yet. Let us cook a young goat for you." But the angel said, "If I do stay, I will not eat your food. But if you want to prepare it as a burnt offering to the Lord." Manoah replied, "Tell us your name, so that we may honor you when your words come true." The angel asked, Why do you want to know my name? It is a name of wonder. So Manoah took a young goat and some grain and offered them on the rock to the Lord who works wonders. While the flames were going up from the altar, Manoah and his wife saw the Lord's angel go up towards heaven in the flames. Manoah realized then that the man had been the Lord's angel, and his wife and himself threw themselves down towards the ground. They never saw the angel again. Manoah said to his wife, "We are sure to die because we have seen God." But his wife answered, "If the Lord had wanted to kill us, he would not have accepted our offerings. He would not have shown us all this or told us such things now." The woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. The child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Lord's power began to strengthen him while he was between Zorah and Eshtaol in the camp of Dan. One day, Samson went down to Timnah, where he noticed a certain Philistine woman. He went back and said to his father and mother, "There's a Philistine woman down at Timnah who has caught my attention. Get her for me. I want to marry her." But his father and mother asked him, "Why do you have to go to those heathen Philistines to get a wife? Can't you find a wife in our own clan, among all our people?" But Samson said to his father, "She is the one I want you to get for me. I like her." His parents did not know that it was the Lord who was leading Samson to do this. For the Lord was looking for a chance to fight the Philistines. At this time, the Philistines were ruling Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother. As they were going through the vineyards there, he heard a young lion roaring. Suddenly, the power of the Lord made Samson strong, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as if it were a young goat. Then he went and talked to the woman, and he liked her. A few days later, Samson went back to marry her. On the way, he left the road to look at the lion he had killed, and he was surprised to find a swarm of bees and some honey inside the dead body. He scraped the honey out into his hands and ate it as he walked along. Then he went to his father and mother and gave them some. They ate it, but Samson did not tell them he had taken the honey from the dead body of a lion. His father went to the woman's house, and Samson gave a banquet there. This was a custom among the young men. When the Philistines saw him, they sent 30 young men to stay with him. Samson said to them, "Let me ask you a riddle. I'll bet each one of you a piece of fine linen and a change of fine clothes that you can't tell me its meaning before the 7 days of the wedding feasts are over." "Tell us your riddle," they said. "Let's hear it." He said, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." 3 days later, they still had not solved the riddle. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Trick your husband into telling us what the riddle means. If you don't, we'll set fire to your father's house and burn you with it." You two invited us, so you could rob us, didn't you? So Samson's wife went to tell him in tears and said, You don't love me. You just hate me. You asked my friends a riddle, and you didn't tell me what it means. He said, Look, I haven't even told my father and mother. Why should I tell you? She cried about it for the whole 7 days of the feast. But on the seventh day, he told her what the riddle meant, for she nagged him about it so much. Then she told the Philistines. So on the seventh day, before Samson went into the bedroom, the men of the city said to him, What could be sweeter than honey? What could be stronger than a lion? Samson replied, If you hadn't been plowing with my cow, you wouldn't know the answer now. Suddenly, the power of the Lord made him so strong, and he went down to Ashkelon, where he killed 30 men, stripped them, and gave their fine clothes to the men who had solved the riddle. After that, he went back home, furious about what had happened, and his wife was given to the man that had been his best man at the wedding feast. Some time later, Samson went to visit his wife during the wheat harvest and took her a young goat. He said to his father, I want to go to my wife's room. But he wouldn't let him go in. He said to Samson, I really thought that you hated her, so I gave her to your friend. But her younger sister is prettier anyway. You can have her instead. Samson said, This time, I am not going to be responsible for what I do to the Philistines. So he went and caught 300 foxes, 2 by 2. He tied their tails together and put torches in the knots. And he set fire to the torches and turned the foxes loose in the Philistine cornfields. In this way, he burnt up not only the corn that had been harvested, but also the corn that was still in the fields, and the olive orchards as well. When the Philistines asked who had done this, they learned that Samson had done it, because his father-in-law, a man from Timnah, had given Samson's wife to a friend of Samson. So the Philistines went and burnt the woman to death and burnt down her father's house. So this is how you act. I swear that I won't stop until I pay you back. He attacked them fiercely and killed many of them. Then he went and stayed in the cave, in the cliff at Etam. The Philistines came and made camp in Judah and attacked the town of Lehi. The men of Judah asked them, Why are you attacking us? They answered, We came to take Samson prisoner and to treat him as he treated us. So 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave in the cliff at Etam and said to Samson, Don't you know that the Philistines are our rulers? What have you done? He answered, I did to them just what they did to me. They said, We have come here to tie you up so that we can hand you over to them. Samson said, Give me your word that you won't kill me yourselves. All right, they said, We are only going to tie you up and hand you over to them. We won't kill you. So they tied him up with the two ropes and brought him back from the cliff. When he got to Lehi, the Philistines came rushing around him, shouting at him. Suddenly, the power of the Lord made him strong, and he broke the ropes round his arms and legs, as if they were burnt thread. Then he found the jawbone of a donkey that had recently died. He bent down and picked it up, and killed 1,000 men with it. So Samson sang, "With the jawbone of a donkey, I killed 1,000 men. With the jawbone of a donkey, I piled them up in piles." After that, he threw the jawbone away. The place where this happened was named Ramath Lehi. Then Samson became very thirsty. So he called to the Lord and said, "You gave me this great victory, and I am now going to die of thirst and be captured by these heathen Philistines." Then the Lord opened a hollow place in the ground there at Lehi, and water came out of it. Samson drank it and began to feel much better. So the spring was named Hakore. It is still there at Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years when the Philistines ruled the land. One day, Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza, where he met a prostitute and went to bed with her. The people of Gaza found out that Samson was there, so they surrounded the place and waited for him all night long at the city gate. They were quiet all night, thinking to themselves, "We'll wait until daybreak and then we'll kill him." But Samson stayed in bed only until midnight. Then he got up and took hold of the city gate and pulled it up, doors, posts, lock and all. He put them on his shoulders and carried them all the way to the top of the hill overlooking Hebron. After this, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in the valley of Sorek. The Philistine kings went to her and said, "Trick Samson into telling you why he is so strong and how we can overpower him. Tie him up and make him helpless. Each one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me what makes you strong. If someone wanted to tie you up and make you helpless, how could he do it?" Samson answered, "If they tie me up with 7 new bowstrings that are not dried out, I will be as weak as anybody else." So the Philistine kings brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings that were not dried out, and she tied Samson. She had some men waiting in another room. So she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." But he snapped the bowstrings just as thread breaks when fire touches it. So they still did not know the secret of his strength. Delilah said to Samson, "Look, you have been making a fool of me and not telling me the truth. Please tell me how someone could tie you up." He answered, "If they tie me with new ropes that have never been used, I'll be as weak as anybody else." So Delilah got some new ropes and tied him up, then shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." The men were waiting in another room. but he snapped the ropes off his arms like thread. Delilah said to Samson, "You are still making a fool of me and not telling me the truth. Tell me how someone could tie you up." He answered, "If you weave my 7 locks of hair into a loom and make it tight with a peg, I'll be as weak as anybody else." Delilah then lulled him to sleep, took his 7 locks of hair and wove them into the loom. She made it tight with a peg and shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." But he woke up and pulled his hairs loose from the loom. So she said to him, "How can you say you love me when you don't mean it? You have made a fool of me 3 times, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." She kept on asking him, day after day. He got so sick and tired of her nagging him about it that he finally told her the truth. "My hair has never been cut," he said. "I have been dedicated to God as a Nazirite from the time I was born. If my hair were cut, I would lose my strength and be as weak as anybody else." When Delilah realized that he had told her the truth, she sent a message to the Philistine kings and said, "Come back just once more. He has told me the truth." Then they came and brought the money with them. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep in her lap, then called a man who cut off Samson's 7 locks of hair. Then she began to torment him, for he had lost his strength. Then she shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are coming." He woke up and thought, "I'll get loose and go free as always." He didn't know that the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him and put his eyes out. They took him to Gaza and chained him with bronze chains and put him to work grinding at the mill in prison. But his hair started to grow out again. The Philistine kings met together to celebrate and offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon. They brought Samson out from the prison. They made him entertain them and made him stand between the pillars. When the people saw him, they sang praise to their God. "Our God has given us victory over our enemy, who devastated our lands and killed so many of us." So Samson said to the boy who was leading him by the hand, "Let me touch the pillars that hold up the building. I want to lean on them." The building was crowded with men and women. All 5 Philistine kings were there, and there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof, watching Samson entertain them. Then Samson prayed, "Sovereign Lord, please remember me. Please, God, give me my strength just once more, so that with this I can get even with the Philistines for putting out my 2 eyes." So Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars holding up the building. Putting one hand on each pillar, he pushed against them and shouted, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed them with all his might, and the building fell down on the 5 kings and everyone else. Samson killed more people at his death than he had killed during his life. His brothers and the rest of his family came down to get his body. They took him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had been Israel's leader for 20 years.